So Ken, just shifting gears. So since the Affordable Care Act was implemented, we've seen now the rate of increase, the national of cost, coming down. And people were saying, well, is it the recession? Is it the ACA? I mean, it seems now at least part of it is attributed to the cost reduction to the ACA. But as you look forward to say, what's out there looming in the future? Maybe not a black swan event, but maybe ostrich in the sand event, where we're not paying enough attention to that could really derail us, right? That is, throw cost in the system.
Well, there are a lot. There are a lot. There is a subtlety that's going to kill a lot of blue state academic medical centers. And this is called DISH. Everybody's looking at me, DISH, was it dinner? DISH is the disproportionate share payments. What you can think of them as something called like bad debt and charity. So when people come to the hospital and they have no ability to pay, there is a component from the feds called DISH, which made up some of that loss. So here's the story. The CEOs of the major academic medical centers are going down while the ACA is being developed, it's being written almost every week, and we're meeting with the staffers on the help committee. And they're telling us what's going on, and we're meeting with people on the finance committee, the staffers, and they're telling us what's going on. And also, I'm meeting with my daughter, who's a staffer for the Senator White House, and she's on the help committee. And everybody knows my daughter better than me when I go down there, but that gives me an ability to talk to people. So we're all talking, and it was a long night that the staffers had in the finance committee, and they say, we've just worked out what's going to happen with DISH. So we said, what's going to happen with DISH? And they say, well, as we increase the number of people who are insured, we'll proportionally decrease your DISH payments. And we say, well, what are we going to do with the immigrants who aren't going to be covered? And this wonderful staffer goes, oh, the immigrants. And we say, well, California, New York, Texas, and Florida have a tremendous number of people who come to our hospital who are not going to be covered, who are either illegal or not going to be eligible. And she says to us, you remember what happened when the president gave a State of the Union address and he talked about that immigrants weren't going to be covered, that some House Representative Republican got up and said, you're a liar, at the State of the Union address. She said, we have instructions. We're not going to deal with the immigrants. So we say, we can't have those DISH payments proportionally go down to the same degree as there are increased enrollment, because we got this group of people who are not going to be covered. They say to me, go see your senator. So we go to see Chuck Schumer, right? And Chuck sits down with us and he says, don't worry. We'll get this bill done, and then like every other piece of social legislation, there'll be add-ons afterwards, and we'll fix these things that we know have problems now. Well, we didn't fix anything. In fact, we made some things worse. So where we stand is we're still arguing over that. So that's hundreds of millions of dollars just to our hospital. But there are other problems. I want to talk about one other bomb that was in there that everybody realizes was a mistake and nobody can fix. And that's what's called market exclusivity for 12 years for biologics. What biologics mean, Zeke wouldn't have put this in. What biologics
Zeke was
mean,
definitely against it.
What biologics mean are the proteins and antibodies that you get by infusions. So this was the deal that the pharmaceutical companies made so that they would sign on early on to the ACA. They'd get 12 years of exclusivity because they were worried that biologics were going to go generic and there'd be generic competition. So what does that mean? I'm a neuroscientist. I'm interested in developing new drugs that are going to get into the brain. Biologics, because they're big proteins, don't get into the brain. So the big pharma companies all start to close down their neuroscience areas. And they focus more on the drugs that are going to have these 12 years of exclusivity, which, by the way, are the most expensive drugs. These proteins, because they say, well, it's hard to make the antibodies. These are the $100,000 a year cancer drugs. So what we're seeing is a disincentive for the diseases that have some of the most important morbidities, like Alzheimer's disease. Now, there are studies in Alzheimer's, and there's some hope that there'd be some of those antibodies, but by and large, this is a bad piece of legislation that is a time bomb for the development of drugs and has to be fixed.
So Zeke,
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
So I just want to, Ken and I are on the same page about the 12-year exclusivity. We fought it, and it was just, you got to get legislation through, and you make compromises, and not every piece of it is something you like. The big question on legislation is, net-net, was it better for the country? And undoubtedly, net-net, the Affordable Care Act is better for the country. I would say on the dish payments, you and I do disagree in that the dish payments don't go to zero.
They won't now.
They weren't in the bill. They go to 25% of what they used to be. That's the first point. Many of the Medicaid or poor people who didn't have insurance now do have insurance. And as a consequence, your bad debt, i.e. hospital services used that were not paid for, on all hospitals in America has gone down tremendously, and hospitals are actually doing better as a result of the Affordable Care Act, even with the dish decline. So net-net, you can complain about this little part, but you have to look at the whole picture, and the whole picture is you're actually doing better.
We're not doing better.
I saw an oi moment there.
We're not doing better. Well,
your uncollected bad debt has gone down tremendously thanks to the Affordable Care Act.
But remember, what's going to happen to the dish payments, you know this is the bizarre thing that CMS is doing, is they're going to distribute it. The current proposal is to wind up distributing it to the states that didn't extend Medicaid. So the winners are going to be the red states who are against this bill.
The whole bill was always a winner for the red states.
That's right.